Welcome everyone to the June Patreon Hangout. Welcome everyone. Do let me know everything's functioning okay. While I'm waiting to hear from people, then I'll have a slurp here. It is absolutely boiling here in London. It is just roasting. It's 30 degrees Celsius and it's 7 o'clock in the evening. So that gives you an idea of what it was like earlier in the day. Yeah, I can see greetings from Arizona. Hi, AZ Lionhearts. Yeah, how are you? It's probably as hot in London as it is in Arizona. There we are. That's saying something. Grüße aus Deutschland. Ja, also schöne Grüße, David. And there's Vishnu. Hi, Danny. What happened to Carlson? He's out of form. He is out of form. Yeah, Magnus is having a bit of a crisis at the moment. I think Magnus has been. Well, I think the problem is he's had World Championship matches in 2013, 2014, and 2016. And I think all his preparation, all his thoughts have been towards those matches, advantages. And I think he's got out of the habit of playing for first prize in a tournament. I think his play is ideally suited to, match play. But I think everyone is catching up with him. They are beginning to appreciate the way he plays, and that the top guys, their technique is excellent these days. So yeah, I think he's going to need to be more creative in future if he's going to maintain his position. So here we go. I can see people joining us. We've got people from all over the world. Brian in Nairobi, fantastic, nice to see you, Brian. We got Håvard Arvik Hansen from Norway. Well, maybe you could tell us what, Håvard, what you think Magnus's problem is. But that's what I think. I think everyone is just catching up with him. And we got greetings Croatia. Yeah, hot in Croatia, I bet as well. And Dario Martin Hernandez from Argentina. And we've got Harris Nabil from Algeria. Fantastic. So we've got a real global community joining me tonight for this. Well, welcome everyone. Let me just tell you what I'm going to do in this program. So as ever, I'll be taking your questions, but I'll be going through some games. And what I want to do is I want to go through some games from the European Individual Championship that took place in Minsk. Finished a week or so ago. So I've selected some very attractive games from there. I've also got someone online wanted me to look at one of the end games from Norway, so I'm going to look at that. And also I'm going to look at one of my own games. There we are. There was a special request on the last Hangout for me to go over one of my old games. So I reluctantly am going to do that. Right, I'm going to kick straight off with a position then. So just hang on a second. Let me just switch screens. So just bear with me. This is where the broadcast will go horribly wrong. While I mess things up. But let's try. Here we go. Now, hopefully, you can see the screen. So this is a game, as I said, from the European Individual Championship between. Let me just go back a little bit. So between Sadowski and Grandelius. So Nils Grandelius from Sweden. John Richardson in Dublin. I wonder if that's the John Richardson I know from London, or whether it's another John Richardson. Anyway, I'm going to be in Dublin in about 10 days' time. I'm looking forward to it. So, a game between Sadowski and Niels Grandelius, who's a very strong Swedish grandmaster. And here, well, Grandelius with black has sacrificed a pawn. You can see, oh dear, someone's being very annoying. Here, white played bishop c6, and Grandelius sacrificed the exchange, and then took on f2. And here, white played queen e3, which was a mistake. So, in this position, how did Grandelius win the game? Here's my first little challenge for you. So, black to play and win. And that gives me the chance to have a little slurp of water because it's absolutely boiling here. Black to play and win. If you're using a computer, don't bother writing in. This is just for a bit of fun. It's not. This is a very simple position to start with. So over to you. We have knight h3 check suggested. Okay. Knight h3 check. Yeah. So that forces king h1. Now, what's your idea? The game's not over. Now, what does black play? Black to play. You can go back if you want to. Queen c2. Well done, Heros Nabil from Algeria. Well done. Well done, Dario Martin Hernandez as well. Yes, Queen c2. Very simple winning move. Just switching the attack to the second rank, and there's no defense to queen takes h2. Very good. Okay, let me just disappear from that. And hopefully I can get out. Okay, there we are, back again. Okay, so that was an easy one to start with. I'd like now to look at a game between, another game from the European Individual Championship. And this is a game between Gawain Jones, English Grandmaster, who's currently playing extremely well. He won the Dubai Open for the second year running recently. And he's playing white against Bahadur Jabava, who's a real favourite of the Power Play Chess channel. I mean, Bahadur is an amazing player. It's the Baku Olympiads, playing board one for Georgia. Just a very exciting player. So that's the game I'd like to look at fairly quickly. So I won't linger too long, not so in depth, but here we go. So against Bahadur Jabava from Minsk, played a couple of weeks ago. So here we go. Well, it starts out, of course, it could go into some kind of Slav, but Gawain plays g3 in this position, which, well, I suppose it's okay, but it does allow black to take on c4. So Bahadur is clearly keen to complicate. And, well, it looks like with knight here, he's taking steps to perhaps hang on to this pawn. And now Gawain, well, clearly he wanted to recover the pawn very quickly. One could castle here. But anyway, knight a3. Strife Live asks, what are we looking at? Well, I just want to repeat, we're looking at Gawain Jones playing white, very strong English Grandmaster, against Bardo Jobava playing black. So here we go. E5. So just playing in a very straightforward way. He's not bothering to recover the pawn. Well, or not bothering to protect that pawn. So if knight takes, then of course black will push on, and that's slightly problematic. So instead, Gawain played Queen C2. And now it's possible just to take this off. I mean, I think this is a reasonable way for black to play, but of course, it's a double-edged position because white has the two bishops. Instead, Bardo just hung onto the pawn. Well, why not? Well, there are probably good reasons why not. Of course, you know, it does open up this diagonal. Now B3. Now, very interesting idea from black. Okay, any suggestions for what black should do in this position? What do you think black should play here? Black to play, what would you do? Bardo is creative player, says Harris Nabil. Absolutely, he's very creative indeed. Yeah. So what did he find in this position? What do you think he played next? Over to you. I'll give you a little bit of time to answer this one. So black to play. Any suggestions? John Richardson says bishop b7 here. Yeah, you could do. Harris Nabil wants queen a5. Timur wants queen c7. After bishop b7, I assume you're going to play this move, which is roughly what Bardo did. Well, we'll see. It's a related idea, but yeah, there is something about that. Sushan Acharya says simply take the pawn. So going back to this position. So bishop b7 I think is reasonable. If you take the pawn, well, white certainly has compensation. You know, there is pressure on c6. So for example, after this, let me see. How's d4? I'm tempted to play d4 straight away, actually. That's kind of interesting, just to blow the position open. And you can see, well, something like this would be, well, certainly white has a lot of compensation. People are suggesting bishop takes a3 and then queen a5. That strikes me as very risky to give up that bishop. I could play here, maybe bishop d6. Looks like some kind of decent compensation there, so I don't think taking. While Abu Garrett says, why not queen c6 before? Ah, did you mean in this position? Maybe, sorry, maybe you meant in this position. Queen c6. Yeah, also possible. Also possible. Yeah, maybe that's best. Play knight b5. Yeah, looks very dangerous. So let's go back. And we've had a suggestion of queen a5 straight away. Yeah, that is possible, absolutely. And then probably would force the knight back. I guess it could reroute. I mean, it's a double-edged position because you know, maybe the queen isn't so well placed on a5. But anyway, all interesting suggestions. In fact, Jabava played bishop c5 here, so well done to Gabe Romo, Tim Worrell, who suggested bishop c5. And the idea is this, that after pawn takes, then b4. And Jones plays knight back to b1. Now this is a fascinating position because actually knight b1 might well be a mistake. I'll return to that position in a second. But what did Black play now? What did Jabava play now? Any thoughts? Whoa! I just managed to knock over a glass of water. That's really clever. You can probably hear that. Mind you, I feel a lot cooler now. AZ Lionheart says, strategically complex positions are very difficult for me to play. I need more practice. Yeah. Strife Life says, e4, of course. Yeah. e4 is the move because it suddenly rather disrupts White's position. Alex37292 says, absolutely boiling in London. Yeah, you're not kidding. It is boiling here. It's still 30 degrees. It's tough. So knight g5. This was played. Shreya says he's arrived late. What are we looking at? We're looking at the game between Garwin Jones, English Grandmaster, playing white, and Bardo Jabava playing black from the European Individual Championship. This game took place just a couple of weeks ago. And Steve-O, he's watching this with a nice cold beer in Brum. It's great. I think I've got my cold beer waiting in the fridge after this broadcast is over. That sounds like a really good plan, Steve-O. So here we go. What's the situation now? What did Black play next? And Ravi Parami says, Daniel, if you think 30 degrees Celsius is hot, you should visit India during the summer. Temperature shoots up to 48 degrees. Indeed, I've been to many hot countries and it's hotter than this. But the thing is, with London, well, you know, it does get to be this hot in the summer. But we're not set up for it. You know, we don't all have air conditioning. That's the thing. Craig McGiver says, Grüezi aus Winterthur. Oh, ja, Grüezi miteinander. Also boiling in Winterthur. Yeah, Craig, that's an interesting one. So you're in Winterthur. No air conditioning in London, exactly, says Alex. Okay, listen, on with the game. Håvard Arvik Hansson wants to play bishop d4, and that's the move that Jabava played. And he wants to follow up with knight c5. Exactly, well done. Perfektes Schweizerdeutsch. I'll be at Beale in a few weeks' time, Craig. Do come and say hi. I'll be doing my usual commentary stint. So this is the game continuation. And now knight takes e4. This is what happens. Knight takes. And now Bardo played a very clever move. He simply castled. Sanket Korgaonkar says, what's wrong with taking on e4? You're about to find out, Sanket. So, for example, in this position, if you take on h7, then the king just ducks into the corner. And actually, it's terribly difficult for white because this is on. And what Jones did not play bishop g2. Why didn't Jones play bishop g2 in this position? Why not bishop g2? As Sanket says, that knight has nowhere to go. Why? Okay, I've got a question for you folks. Why didn't white play bishop g2? Bishop f5? Bishop f5? No, bishop f5, I guess you can just play d3 in that position. I think that holds everything together. Well, it holds it well enough together. Too weak, too slow, not sure what that means. Black to play. What does black play after bishop g2? Looks like a normal move to me. Strife Life says queen f6. Indeed, that is the very strong move in this position. So basically, black is just winning material. It's incredible. Bardo's very clever idea to advance this pawn, and that knight is, well, it just has no moves. So black is winning the rook in the corner. Very nice. Okay, Strife Life asks, why not bishop takes c6? And I think that's a reasonable question. Let me follow up with that one. Then I guess bishop here. Takes. Let me see. Queen here again. Similar kind of thing. I think black is just winning material here. That knight is still in trouble. So I don't think bishop c6 cuts it either. So in this position, Jones had to play d3. And the reason he did that was to play this knight into d2, which means after this, for example, then white can save himself by playing knight d2, and the rook is protected by this guy. So here we go. Let's just go back. So after d3, black exchanged, and bishop h3. And now there's a problem with rook d1. You can simply take here, and, well, black has an overwhelming material advantage because obviously that can't be taken because of the rook check, and the rook's going to be taken in the corner. So just going back, in this position, Jones had to play rook e1. Now f5 is a very logical move to break open the f-file while the pawn lacks protection. Arsalan Baghdadi says it's hot in Armenia. I'm sure it is. So this is the game continuation. So Jones is struggling to bring his queenside pieces into play. This is his huge problem. Knight d2. Queen e7, very simple. So you can see that Bardo has just a wonderful bishop around white's king, and of course white's king is just going to be in permanent danger in this position. Now rook f6 is very logical. c5, rook here. Now, rook c1 played. Harris Nabil asks, why doesn't Bardor participate in top chess tournaments like Paris, Norway? Well, sometimes he does play in those elite tournaments. Personally, I would like to see him invited more often. I mean, I think one of his problems is that, of course, he's not as consistent as other players. So, you know, sometimes he crashes. And I think against the top guys, he does tend to suffer because they play very accurately. They defend extremely well. Technically, they're excellent. So his style often comes unstuck against the top guys. Steinar Lima says, at the time of Norway chess, there were the top 10 players in the world. Yes, and that's why he didn't get invited. But you know, he could be a wild card in a lot of these tournaments. I agree. But you know, there are other players who are also very exciting, and Sanket mentions Morozevich, and there's Rapport as well. You know, these are very exciting players. But not the only ones. They're not as consistent as the big guys. That's their problem. But I think, you know, top tournaments would be more interesting. Okay, black to play. What would you do next? Black to play. Anatole Sullivan asks, how come we don't see Morozevich playing top tournaments? Steinar says, same story. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, it's your move again. Oh, yes, let's get to the King's Gambit question. Why is the King's Gambit gone from the top level? Well, it's basically completely unsound. That's the problem. It's really unsound. There's not just one way to refute it. There are many ways to refute it. You know, occasionally you can get away with it. So, for example, Adiban used it in Vaikonze in January, but that was kind of a one-off, and really, it's not a good idea. It loses a pawn. It loses quite an important pawn. Immortal says GMs refuse to sacrifice material early in the opening. That's not true, actually. You know, there are very good pawn sacrifices in the opening, but the King's Gambit is particularly bad. It was okay in 1882, but we've moved on a bit. Arsalan Baghdadi says, use the weakness of the light squares. Yes, lots of people want to take on f2, so let me go with that. And then what? What's next and why? Strife Life says Hikaru played the Muzio Gambit 2006. Yeah, you know, you can cite lots of occasions where the King's Gambit has been played as a one-off, but it doesn't stand up to serious analysis. You know, Carlsen played the King's Gambit and defeated Chinese player. Who did he beat? Wang Hao. I think it was Wang Hao, was it? Wang Yue, I can't remember. In a nice game. Daniela Marioni says, Daniel, remember your promise about analysing your evergreen? Yeah, I haven't forgotten. After this, I'm going to be looking at one of my games. So everyone wants to play a check, and some people want to play queen f3, threatening checkmate, but then white can defend with rook c2. However, someone very sensible has played queen f6, or suggested queen f6. It's queen f6 to queen b2. That's what I meant. And that is the move, and that is a very nice checkmate indeed. Very nice indeed. I've got someone. Wait a second, guys. I'm just trying to sort something out here. You might notice the similarity between this finish and the game that we started with, where Grandelius was playing black, and suddenly he switched from an attack on the F file to an attack on the second rank, exactly the same as this. I just thought there's a nice coincidence between the two. Just a moment, folks. Let me just come out of this. Okay, that's better. Now, I just need to I just need to get rid of this message. Wait a second. Ofa, I can see your comments on Patreon, but actually, could you please use the chat box on the Hangout, because I can't look at both chats at the same time. I'm using the chat box on the Hangout, so please don't put your comments on Patreon. Thank you very much. Okay. Where are we going next? Yeah. Well, first of all, let me deal with some of your questions. Jan Tellefson asks, seems like Wesley So plays the English quite a bit. Is it coming back into fashion? The English has never gone out of fashion. It's an excellent opening, and I think it's, you know, it's not quite as forcing as many E4 and D4 lines. So, of course, I mean, as I said, the English never went out of fashion. Anatole Sullivan says, where do I donate? You can make a one-off donation on PayPal, and you can see that on the Power Play Chess channel. All the links are there. Or if you'd like to make a monthly contribution and become a patron of the channel, then please do go to patreon.com. I'm going to write it in here. Wait a second. Patreon.com. And Power Play Chess. 1 second, folks, while I write this in. And you can donate monthly. I would really appreciate. The only reason that we're able to spend the time and trouble to put these Hangouts together, because I prepare them, is because we get contributions from our patrons. So thank you very much to all those. Okay, now I'm going to look at one of my own games. Last time, someone asked me whether I would look at one of my favorite games, and I'm very happy to do that. Normally, I don't like to look at my own games, actually, but there was a special request, so here we go. I'm going to look at the game that I played in 2003. Shreya says, we don't see the Caro-Kann very often. Yeah, we do. Caro-Kann's very, very popular. Your own Vichy is a great exponent of the Caro and plays it regularly. It's still a very popular opening. Okay, let's sort this one out. So here we go. This is one of my favorite games. I played this in 2003, and it's against David Howe, who since 2003 has become one of England's up-and-coming players. I mean, he's you know, regular in the English team. He's rated over 2,700. I played him when he was still a teenager, so this was some time ago. This was not an easy game because, you know, he was rated lower than I was, but of course you know, the young guys, there's no pressure on them. And if I'd lost to him, then there would have been horrible headlines. So all the pressure was on me for this game. It was played at a tournament, a close tournament in Simpsons, 2003, the Staunton Memorial Tournament. And, well, here we go. Steinar says, playing good players when they're young is the best strategy. Could be. Right, mainline Spanish. I knew that David likes to play the martial attack. Well, I wasn't going to walk into all his preparation, so I played one of the anti-martial systems with A4. Of course, there are many ways to stop the martial. You can play H3, you can play D3, you can play A3, many moves. You can also play D4, not a bad move at all. That's a very good move, and a move I've played. But A4 is a normal move. And now you can play B4 here, or you can play Bishop B7, and Bishop B7 was the move that was played. D3. Tim says A4, just like Kasparov versus Short, yes, and many other games. So knight D2. One can also play with knight C3. That's pretty normal. But I went with knight D2. So both sides doing their usual moves. So this kind of curl up with rook E8 and bishop F8 is absolutely normal, of course, so that the bishop can come here, and having the rook on E8 means it's harder for white to break in the center with D4. So bishop D2, now that's a slightly unusual move, but it takes control over these squares, which can be useful. Stops an annoying knight A5 sometimes. G6, okay, looks very normal. Clico says there's no other plan in Spanish than knight D2, F1, G3. Well, there are lots of plans, lots of different plans in Spanish. Sometimes you can play D4 early on, but this knight needs a home. It's the standard way to do it, and whoops, why not? But here I did not play knight G3 because actually with the pawn on G6, then the knight is somewhat stymied. So I didn't play that. Instead I played C4. But as I said, Clico, you can also play sometimes with knight C3 to D5. But it's useful to take this knight, to get this knight out, and sometimes the knight finds a very good square on G3 and the outpost F5. Sometimes it comes to E3 and one of these squares as well. So it's not the only plan by any means. But I played C4, so this is something a little bit different. Strife Life says, was this in the Mastering the Spanish book? No, it wasn't. Sushan, watch this game and you'll feel better. I guarantee it. Okay, here we go. So probably black's best move is to take here, but I think white is slightly better here. One plan is to perhaps advance the b pawn. You have control over d5. This bishop isn't much. But he played more ambitiously. He played with b4, which means that, you know, this bishop does look a little bit silly, blocked in by the pawn. A5, so that makes room for the bishop, so that's logical. But also, this is logical to strand this pawn, so it's cut from its other pawn here. Rook b8, bishop a4. So at the moment, I can't take that pawn, because if I played this, then you can see the rook protects the pawn. So that's why I moved the knight in first, and he played bishop h6. Well, if knight c5, then this comes, and the b pawn is going to drop. So he played here, knight d5 anyway. Takes, and knight c5. So I played queen h6. Well, the thing is, if this, then I don't win a pawn here, because he can take here and take here. And black is all right in that position. However, so he thought that he was doing okay because this knight has reached a pretty healthy square. But this is when I seized my moment. Queen h6. So that exchange of bishops has left his kingside somewhat exposed. And now I'm threatening knight g5. So f6 covers g5. And now knight h4. Now this is an incredibly crude attack. This is death or glory, basically. If the attack doesn't break through, then black is taking material on the other side of the board. But this is incredibly strong. Knight takes bishop. Okay, white play. What do you do next? If you're using a computer, forget about it, don't bother. What would you do next? Knight takes pawn, says Anatole. Well, in fact, yeah, everyone wants to play knight takes g6. But there is a slight problem with that one. If you play knight takes g6, well, for example, in fact, this very strange move is reasonable, with the idea of exchanging off the dangerous knight on d5. That's the idea. I think the rook lift is actually too slow. Incredibly, this is okay for black. The move is knight f5. That is the move. And after takes rook e3. Yeah, so pretty simple stuff. Not knight takes f6, but actually rook e3. Knight f5 is indeed nice, Clicquot. Yeah. And this is crushing. But you have to get it right. So in this position, what do you play on knight e7? What's the best continuation? What should white play here? Scrancy Dizzler says, I'm always wrong. Queen takes f6, what's that? Not sure about queen f6. Queen f6, I can play bishop takes knight. And you can always interpose with the rook. Remember, white, there's a lot of material down here. White can only take one piece at a time. So let's go back. Not that one. Arsalan Baghdadi wants to play rook h3. Yeah, indeed. Let's play rook h3. That is the move. So if bishop takes knight, here, and then it's a very simple move. A really simple move. You take on d5, and there are two threats in this position. One threat is to play here, and to come there, and the other threat is to play here, threatening your mate. And actually, there's no defense. It's a kind of slow motion attack. So, for example, here, then I think just rook g3 wins. This knight actually gets in the way. Okay, I'm going to go back. So, what are the other alternatives? King h8. Yes. What do you play on king h8? That's the next one. Gabe says, why not knight f6? Okay, I'll just go back. Why not knight f6 check? After this, maybe you meant in another position, but black is actually okay after that. Rook e3 is definitely the move. You meant after. All right, listen, I've moved on from knight e7. Sorry. Rook h3 is the move. Yes, rook h3 is the move. So threatening mate, and after rook e7, what do we play? Knight f6. Well done, Boyan Maximovich. And the problem here is that mate is threatened with queen h7. This knight just controls all the squares. It's impossible to defend. So d7 is controlled, and g8 is controlled. Probably this is the best, just to give up the queen. But must be winning for white. I'll just take this off. And yeah, it's too much actually. Okay, let's go back. So it's just what I liked about this is that, you know, it's a slow motion threat. White has a whole move to defend, but can't. Black has a whole move to defend, but can't do it. Okay, back we go. So in this position, rook e3, just to recap, that's the game continuation. And here, black played knight d4. So what do you play after knight d4? White play. This was the game continuation. My opponent, David Howe, played knight d4. What do you do next? It's all gone very quiet again. But there is something very, very strong. Yes, indeed. Let's go here. Next move, please. Rook check. No, not rook h3. What's the move now? Queen h7. Yeah. No. Rook g7 is best. Yeah. And now? No, not taking on h7. No. This is much better. And now what? No, not knight c7. You can do all these things. Yeah, knight c7 is possible. This is possible, but it's not the best. There's something that's better than this. No one said it yet. Very interesting. Everyone's going crazy. No, no one's got it yet. Everyone suggests, look, first person got it. Look, everyone's been suggesting knight c7, takes here, all kinds of stuff. Only one person, two have suggested it now. No, no. I've got 2 suggestions, 3 suggestions, 4 suggestions. 4 people have found it. Yep. Well done to Ravi Parami. Well done to Gabe. Well done to Nacho. Well done to Wael Abu Garad was the first person to suggest it. Well done. Queen f6. Here is mate in 2. And that is how the game ended. Oh, Gabe, power play calculation video. Excellent. Yeah, that was the end of the game. So there you are. That's my evergreen game. Do you know, I thought after I won that game, I thought there was going to be a shower of coins on the board. It was beautiful. I enjoyed that. You know, I felt a kind of glow after it. James Hobbs says he's too drunk for this. Oh man, maybe you're not drunk enough. There you go. Have another beer. Maybe it'll be a lot clearer. Actually, I should tell you something funny about that game. That it was played at Simpsons in the Strand, which is a traditional home of English chess. In the Victorian times, this was like the centre of the London chess scene. You know, Steinitz and Staunton used to hang out there. So there's a lot of history attached to this place. And the Times chess correspondent, Raymond Keane, was sitting in the front row watching this game. He likes Simpsons very much. It is a very nice restaurant. But he'd had a very large lunch. And unfortunately, he'd fallen asleep. So he missed the denouement to that game. What a pity. Okay, we have some questions. Let me just take some questions to finish. Alexander Harris asks, are any new DVDs planned in the next few months? Not at the moment, actually. I'll be going to Hamburg in the autumn, and I'll be recording some stuff, but probably not a DVD. I've just spent you know, this March and producing a DVD, and it's just out, and there we are. Blazaro says David Howe must have been a kid. Yeah, he was a teenager. Yeah, he was a teenager. It was before he hit the big time. While Abu Garad asks, can I use blitz or bullet to improve my game? It's probably not the most efficient way to improve your game. Of course, it's fun to play blitz, but if you want to improve your game, some analysis would be good. Study your own games, I would say. Arsalan Baghdadi asks, could I do Hangout more? Well, I do them once a month, and so do check out the July Hangouts. There'll be another one coming soon. Bert Hamilton asks, am I enjoying the nice weather? I'm really enjoying the weather. Yeah, today was maybe a little bit too hot, but basically I love the summer. So I'm going to be going downstairs and taking a nice cold beer from the fridge and sitting outside any moment. Alexander Harris says he gets up at 4 AM to see the Hangouts. Well, dedication, Alexander, that's good. Blazer also says, I'm learning the polar bear system. What do you think? I'm not sure I know what the polar bear system is. Scrancy Dizzler asks, who was greater, Fisher or Gary? Oh, I don't like those kind of historical questions. You can't say. Boyan Maximovich asks, how big is London? Very big. John Rich says, if you fancy a pint when I'm in Dublin, give me a shout. Okay, well, I'm going to be in Malahide. So if you're out, John, if you're out in Malahide, then I'll see you down at Gibney's in Malahide, okay, for a pint. Or the Grand Hotel is very nice for a pint as well. Let me see. Arsalan says, answer Edward's questions. Edward asks, how should we handle fear of losing at chess? Well, that's a tricky one. Fear of losing. I think if your fear is too great, then you have a problem. This is a big question. See a psychologist. You need to see a sports psychologist. They're good on that. But yeah, I think if you fear losing, then you have a problem. Because basically, every time you sit at the board, then 3 results are possible. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that losing is possible. And just get over it, basically. Ignacio says, do I ever come to Berlin? Actually, I haven't been to Berlin for a very long time. I used to go to Berlin a lot, but I haven't been to Berlin for a long time. Hamburg, not Hamburg, normally. Liquid Zero asks, and this is a good question, Dan, have you ever played Stoned? No comment. Let me see. Kliko, thank you very much. He became a patron a few days ago. Good guy. I appreciate it. Engine Kid says, what do I think about Magnus saying he's not confident in classical chess? Yeah, I thought that was a very an extraordinary admission by Magnus Carlsen at the end of Norway Chess Tournament when he said he lacks confidence when he's playing classical chess at the moment. Incredible. For, this is his first real crisis in his chess career, so it'll be very interesting to see how he handles it. Actually, I think he should change his opening repertoire. That's what Kramnik recommended, and I think he's on to something. Let me see. Let me see. I'll take a couple more questions. So I'm just scrolling back. Sorry, I'm just catching up with. Slipkip asks, why don't we see the Evans Gambit by the top players anymore? Evans Gambit, well, it's not as bad as the King's Gambit. However, it's so easy to prepare against the Evans Gambit. It was okay in the 19th century, and even when Kasparov played it against Anand in 1995, I seem to recall, it's okay for a one-off, but you can't play this regularly. You'll just get crushed. It's not sound, basically, and with computer preparation, it's so easy to prepare something decent against it. Daniel Porras asks, what do I think of Jeremy Silman's material? Yeah, Jeremy Silman, for those of you who don't know, he's an international master from America. He lives on the West Coast. I think his books are excellent. I like Silman's material. On this channel, I've recommended, for example, his Endgame course before, but he also has these books, Reassess Your Chess, which I think are excellent. So yes, I do recommend Jeremy Silman's books. He's a nice guy. He also writes extremely well. I like him a lot. Let me see. I'll take a couple more questions, then it's time to go. Tim Worrell asks, you said Carlsen should change his opening repertoire. Change how? Sharper. I think he's got to be less predictable. It's not necessarily sharper. I think he's got to be less predictable, because at the moment he's playing these funny sidelines, like, for example, d4 and bishop f4, but that was okay for a one-off or a few times, but he's persisting with it. And these guys have just got wise to it. Also, you know, his repertoire with black, he's playing e4, e5 for a lot of the time now. So he's basically relying on his World Championship preparation. I think, you know, he's such a strong player that he can get away with other openings. And I think he should shuffle things around a little bit, which will involve a lot of hard work in preparation. But I think he's just getting a bit too predictable. So it's not necessarily sharper, but just less predictable would be my feeling. And with white, for example, I think he should be playing some mainline d4 openings. Why not? I think that would suit his style, actually. Let me see. Arsalan Baghdadi says, problem is, if he accepts theoretical battles, he easily lose against players at Anand. Let me see. Okay, I'll take one last question. I'm not getting decent questions at the moment. Oh, I had a couple of questions asking, do I play online for fun or on my phone? No, I don't. I've never enjoyed playing online, actually. I don't play online at all. Occasionally I have the odd blitz game, not online, but for example, I was in Ostend, the chess club there, a few weeks ago, and Alexander Harris asks, what's a decent question look like? Well, I've got a lot of statements here rather than questions. That's what I meant, actually. There were some very decent questions. Apologies to me. Right, I'm going to finish things up there. More videos coming on this weekend, so do look out for those. As said, this program is only possible because of the patrons that support the channel, so thank you to them. And if you want to support the channel, I will be very, very grateful. So do check out patreon.com and Powerplay Chess, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal. Thanks very much for tuning in, and see you later. Bye now.